Hey everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to use the Whimsy Die Set, which as you can see kind of creates a scalloped look on your entire layout. So this set comes with the 4x4 Whimsy die. That's the one I'm holding right here, and you can kind of see it has that fun little curve. And these dies work like the Horizon die set, if you are familiar with that one, so pretty much the same concept here. And the next die is the 2x4 Whimsy die, and you can see it's small here, it has the one little curved edge, and it lines up with the 4x4 Whimsy die, and I have it turned in the wrong direction, so here we go. So it lines up just like this on your layout. And of course, it'll wrap all the way around your 12x12 page. And also this set comes with the 2x2 die, which is a little decorative die. And if you wanted to use it on your layout, you would put it right in the center, or of course you can use it alone on another layout. All right, now that you have been introduced to the dies, let's get started. So before you get started cutting, it is really important to make sure you plan out where your photographs are going to go before you get started. So I'm going to show you a little bit my photos here and why I placed them where I did. So here I have the 4x4 Whimsy die, and since this is the largest one, this is the best one to put your portrait photographs. So here I made sure that the two people here could fit within that piece that's on the side here. And by the way, this, if you wanted to fit the whole photograph in that 4x4 space, a 4x6 would be too small. You would need a 5x7 photograph if you want it to fill that whole entire space. Here, the people are kind of over on the left a little bit, which fit really well with the side I'm going to put it on. So you want to make sure, and I could have it on this side as well, but I felt like they were a little bit close to the curve on the top corner there. So you want to play around and see and turn the Whimsy die to see which way your photo is going to fit best, or which direction your photo is going to fit best within that size. I also have the 2x4 die, which I did not have much portrait photographs that were at a distance, so I decided to show off some of the decorations at the Bellagio Hotel, all the little animals they have there, which are really neat, and a lot of them were farther enough away and can fit in the 2x4 die very well. And of course, you want to make sure it fits in the direction you want to go. The elephant, I can't get the entire elephant here, but I can get the entire face and the front part of its body, and it kind of looks fun when you crop it that way. And again, you want to check the direction. Would you like the scallop part at the bottom or at the top? So again, play around and check to see where your photos fit best on the dies. And also for this one, I have the full photograph, but I really just wanted to show this fox. So that's where he's going to go in this 2x2 scallop frame. To use the Whimsy dies, you will of course need a die machine. I'm using the Sizzix Big Shot, and it's one of my favorite die machines we use here at Mosaic Moments. And when you place the Whimsy die over your photograph, you do absolutely want to make sure it is turned in the direction you want to place your photo on your layout. So here I made sure that little scalloped corner on the 4x4 die was pointed towards the top right corner of my photograph. So again, you don't want to cut your photograph and realize it's going to be sideways or upside down on your layout. So double check and make sure it's pointing in the right direction. All right, so I have my first one, and I'm gonna make it a little bit quicker here because I think you get the idea. So this one I have made sure that scallop corner is pointed towards the top left of my photo here. All right, and of course, any shots in the distance are going to work very well for the Whimsy die. And this one, the couple is closer up. This time I made sure that scalp corner was on the bottom right of the photo. And that is also why pre-planning is important, to make sure your subjects will fit or be cropped the way that looks good to you. And of course, this time for the last 4x4 cut, I made sure that little Whimsy, or that little scallop corner, was pointed towards the bottom left of my photograph. And I am using the Sizzix crease pad here because then my photographs don't get that little indent around the edges. So that is a tip we like to share with others is the crease pad is a great way to avoid getting that indent. And right here I have the 2x4 Whimsy die, and again you want to make sure that scallop edge is on the side you want it to cut. So in this case this little dragonfly is going to go on the left side of my layout, so I want to make sure that scallop part is also on the left. So you also want to check on the 2x4 dies as well, because you don't want your little photograph to be sideways or upside down. All right, so I have this one cut, and I'm going to make the video a little bit faster here. This time I made sure the scallop part was pointed towards the top so I can fit in this tiger on my layout. So one tip I would like to share is make sure whenever you're on a trip or really anywhere that you take your photos at a variety of distances. You can see with the Whimsy die here, a lot of these photographs are great because they were taken more at a distance and can fit in these smaller spaces better. So it's obviously nice to have some photographs fill the frame of your camera, but you also want to take lots of photographs where you take several steps back and make sure you get more at a distance so they can fit in these smaller spaces when you make your scrapbook page later. We get asked a lot about our photographs, and that is my big tip of the day, is to make sure you take your photographs at a variety of distances. All right, and this is the last one. This is the 2x2 Whimsy die, and of course, like I said earlier, I didn't want to use the whole photograph. I just wanted to highlight that fox that's rubbing the lamp. And sometimes if you need, you roll it through twice. My die machines are kind of older and getting kind of looser, so they're not cutting maybe as well as they used to, so sometimes I feel like I need to roll it through twice. And really you just need that center cut for the photograph. So the photographs fill the inside part of the Whimsy design, and now I need to make the outer edge of the Whimsy design. Here I decided to use pattern paper, and just so you know, to fill this corner piece of the 4x4 Whimsy die, a 4x6 photograph would be too small, so you would have to use a 5x7 if you want to fill it with a photo, or use pattern paper or even a plain cardstock. Here I chose this pattern paper partially because it was simple. I have a lot going on in my photographs, so if your photos seem busy, it might be best to use a simple cardstock or pattern paper around the edges of it. And I did cut around the part of the die I just wanted to use, so I didn't have to waste a lot of pattern paper. I like to save as much as possible for other projects or making a second layout. Alright, so that's the piece I just need to save here. And like I said, I cut the pattern paper so it would just fill that corner space. Now I'm going to cut the little tiny section on the 2x4 Whimsy die. I'm lining up the little section next to the previous part I cut off. That is so when I make my layout, my pattern paper kind of lines up. My paper probably doesn't matter as much because it's a simple design, but if you had a more complex pattern, say with characters or something like that, you may want to make sure your Whimsy cuts match a little bit more, so when you make the final layout, it kind of makes sense how your paper lines up. And of course, if you are using something with characters or something more complex, you will want to pay attention to which way your die is cutting on your pattern paper. And also, you want to make sure if you're using the 2x2 die to cut out the frame part, because before I just kept the middle part for my photograph. So now I'm cutting the actual frame piece, so I'm using the same color pattern paper. I roll it through the machine here. Alright, and once I'm done, the frame came out very nicely here. Sometimes I have to use tweezers to poke them out, but this time I didn't need it. So I discarded that middle piece, and I'm keeping the frame piece that sits inside the die itself. Alright, so now that all my pieces are cut, it's time to place them all on the grid paper. Here I have 12x12 cocoa because my photograph stood out a lot on this dark color and it fit with the fall color scheme. I just put some glue on the edges and each corner of this Whimsy 4x4 corner piece here. This is the pattern paper I cut earlier, and I am using Re-positionable glue. This is the Herma Dotto Dispenser, and it is handy, and I highly recommend it because Right here, I'm kind of struggling to get my piece on there straight, so I'm taking my time. So yes, make sure you take your time. Sometimes the die machine cuts your shapes a teeny bit crooked and it doesn't get on there quite right. But my rule is when you're working with the grid paper, make sure those grid lines are covered completely, because later you don't want to look at your layout and sometimes there's a little bit of a grid line showing. So make sure they are completely covered, and that's how you know you lined it up correctly. Next, I'm going to glue down the back of my photo here. I got each of the corners and right in the center. You don't need a ton of glue really, and it does become permanent over time. And basically take your photograph and squeeze it up right next to the edge here. So basically, the Whimsy die, as I mentioned earlier, it's similar concept as the Horizon die set. If you like that one, you'll probably really like Whimsy. So basically you have your outer pieces and your inner pieces. There isn't really a frame die like our level 3 dies are. Really, it's all the shapes are basically two pieces and then you place them next to each other to make the entire 4x4 or 2x4 piece in this case. And if, in case you're wondering, I actually really like the Whimsy die. I think it's the design spots are bigger for the most part than the Horizon dies, or at least the original set. So if you find that you have a hard time getting the Horizon die to work because the design spots are really small, you'll probably like the Whimsy die more because the space, as you can see, there's the 4x4 space and the 2x4 space, and they're a little bit bigger than the Horizon dies. So I really love the Horizon die, but I think if you like having larger design spots, you'll probably really love the Whimsy set. Alright, and I'm just going around and gluing all the pieces. So on this bottom two, I glued down the photo pieces first because my outer edges, obviously, I would not have been able to figure out where they fit along the grid lines. So, and this one here, I'm putting the photograph down first because I can line it up on the grid lines properly. This bottom piece, I would have a harder time figuring out where it needs to go on the bottom. So place down the piece that'll line up on the grid paper the easiest. And that time I got ahead of myself because I was doing photographs and was like, oh yeah, that's not going to line up as well. So right now I'm going back to the pattern paper edging and lining that up first, and now I'm going to line up my photograph right next to it. And also take your time. Again, the re-positionable glue is handy in case you don't line it up the first time. You can always pick it up and re-line it up again. But for the most part, since these pieces are a little bit bigger, I haven't had too much trouble lining everything up. Except for that first piece for some reason. And like I said, it probably just didn't get cut quite right, but the rest of the pieces went along really fast. Alright, now I'm squeezing these last two. I say squeeze because you want to really line it up. There should not be, by the way, there should not be a gap at all between your photo and the edging of the Whimsy die. So there should be no gap. The pattern paper, or excuse me, the grid paper should not be showing in between your photo and I guess the outer frame section. So you want to squeeze them together really close. All right, now here is the last part of my layout. I am gluing the back of the 2x2 Whimsy frame here, which is cute and adorable. Like I said, fits perfectly right in the middle of your Whimsy design, or you're welcome to use it alone or use it on if you're making a 2-page spread, it would be perfect for the second layout of your 2-page spread. And I'm gluing the back of the photo here and it fits perfectly right in the middle here. And now my layout is complete. Alright, we have reached the end of today's demo. Definitely give this video a thumbs up if you like the Whimsy die. If you're really excited about this design, let me know. Also, if you have any questions, definitely ask them in the comments below. And also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I would love for you to be updated on any future tutorials we create. Alright, I hope you guys had fun and learned a lot about using the Whimsy die, and I hope you enjoy it when you get the chance to use it at home. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.